Hey, augmenters! I am thrilled to share this next episode with you. When it comes to investigation and following clues, no one beats the indelible, indefatigable, incomparable Sherlock Holmes. And finding a great mentor can be as intimidating as solving some of life's great mysteries. In this episode, focused on our mentoring principle number 3, we don our finest tweed jacket and share tips and best practices for busting out your magnifying glass and finding a great mentoring relationship in your life. Settle in next to a fire and enjoy. You can't deny that Sherlock Holmes is the world's number one detective. I mean, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, he was knighted because of Sherlock. And he is the person who is clearly our spirit animal for finding guides. How do you go out, look for them, figure out where they're hiding, and begin to use your science of deduction to
And the one, well, and the one thing I did kind of dig about him is that he is sort of out of the he's out of the norm, like, right? He's like kind of who you bring. He's like your hired gun. He's who you bring in when nobody else can really figure it out. He kind of works outside the system. So as a consultative entity. So I like that because I think there's sort of the sense around mentoring, especially when you're in school, that your school is going to help you find it, or your parents are going to help you find a mentor, or somebody else is going to help you find a mentor, like within these sort of systems. But then Sherlock comes in from outside, just being like, you kind of have to figure it out yourself because the systems that are in place maybe aren't going to actually support you in the way that you need.
I completely agree. The taking in all information you have and then running through logical conclusions, but knowing that that you need to be very creative in how you take in information. That's why we're talking about guides and Sherlock Holmes and how people can start to think about. All right, you've already done your vision. You've painted with Bob. You know the kind of place you want to end up. Right? You've started to explore. You've gotten out there with Dora. You've grabbed Boots by the hand and
Got your map.
got your map. You filled up your backpack. You have life experiences, and now you're going to go use your powers of deduction to go out and find a small handful of people that could be your guides. And our starting place is that Venn diagram of one half is your personal hobbies and passions, and the other half are your life and career goals, and those need to overlap. And wherever that overlap is, that is your pool where you're going to start using your Sherlock Holmesian-esque abilities to sniff out a small group of people that you could then begin to communicate with to see if there's an opportunity for a mentoring relationship. But what I found interesting was the true background and origin story of where Arthur Conan Doyle got the idea for Sherlock Holmes.
School me, Jimmy. I'm ready.
So, and this is great because I believe this occurred at Edinburgh University.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we got
Right down the
connections
road.
all over. Okay. And Doyle was a student there, and his professor was Dr. Joseph Bell. And supposedly, Bell was renowned for his powers of deduction and his reasoning logics. And that Bell became a mentor to Doyle, both in school and afterwards. And then Doyle used those same more academic style that Bell had and put it into the gentleman detective we now know as Sherlock Holmes.
So mentoring was basically the birth of this whole entire operation.
Ding, ding, ding.
Interesting to see that the mentoring relationship was sort of the birth of this, and then it does play out in various varieties between the two of them. But the key thing really is the fact that the reason why we picked them is because they're solving mysteries.
Well, I want to say they are almost always finding people. And it comes back to the person is most important.
He has like really great qualities, and then he has some pretty dubious qualities. He's kind of an isolator. He thinks he's a little bit smarter than everybody else, but at the end of the day, he kind of comes in and saves the day. So I'm wondering too, I think that there's sort of these pros and cons of everybody. And then as you're looking for mentors, I think it's also important to be thinking about, kind of the pros of what people bring, but then also being okay with the fact that they might not have, that maybe they have some challenges as well.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say, and I think why Holmes became this transcendental figure. I mean, literally, we talked about he has pushed more books and content than any other character in fiction. We are calling the Bible, nonfiction at the moment. So only basically Jesus outsells him. And I think that's because Sherlock Holmes really is human. He has flaws. He is not this like perfect character. Nobody wants to aspire to be all of Holmes. He is very human in some ways, and you can get some of those ups and downs. And that's where I think Sir Arthur Conan Doyle had that was kind of his second hook. He had this really interesting mind, and then he had like a really rich character. Come back again to mentoring about when you're out there looking for people, it needs to be somebody who you don't want to aspire to in all aspects, because we are all human. We are all not going to be the same. And I think that's a really important tie-in that we can think about with Sherlock Holmes.
And I think it's also important as you're looking for mentors too. I think there's an idea of sort of idolizing somebody, depending upon how you're going about it. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you kind of dig through and find somebody, but you potentially think, they have everything, you idolize them. Which really sets both of you up for failure. It sets the mentor up for failure in the sense that you feel like, you can't do anything wrong. You're going to let people down. And also sets the sort of, the believer up for failure because they then don't accept their foibles themselves. So maybe they feel like this person is, has everything and is perfect, and then they see themselves maybe not that way. So I think one of the key things, I think as we're talking about this, I hadn't really thought of this initially, but is the idea of sort of, imperfection, and also, seeing that everybody has really great qualities to bring and that everybody has challenges also. And the humility, which is the word that we have talked about many times. So somebody comes to us and says, this is my mystery. I need help. I would really like to find a mentor. Where do I start?
I think this comes to our first symbol right off the bat. And our first symbol, I believe, needs to be the magnifying glass. So even though Holmes, especially in the earlier works, doesn't use a magnifying glass that often, when you think about the classical detectives, they always have it.
Yes.
And I think what's important is, now that we've talked about these two circles that are creating your Venn diagram of overlap, you really need to focus in. It's something that you and I always talk about customer segmentation. Well, we're really talking about mentoring segmentation and starting to say, okay, we're going to look for a certain group. We are going to focus. It is not going to be a scattershot approach.
I'm always curious about the magnifying glass. What exactly are they using it for? But at the end of the day, what it does is it sort of signifies the idea that now you're searching, now you're looking, you're digging deeper, and you're like narrowing, which is, I guess, what a magnifying glass does. It sort of magnifies what's in front of you.
I mean, I think that what that means is a lot of what we're talking about in mentoring is more of the intangibles and the mindset. There's so many different tactics that can be used. Find what works for you. The overall purpose is, do not send 10 emails to 10 different people on a Monday. Maybe you send 3, because 3, that's probably too many mentoring relationships for you to even enter into. And like, you definitely do not want to be offending these people who you are asking for in the beginning for their time, which is their most valuable resource, most likely. And we'll talk about later how you are actually the one bringing it, and you should be compensated as a believer. But in the beginning, you are still asking for someone's time for free. And I really think you need to focus. And that should be the first thought. You have your overlap. Now focus down to just a couple people. So to spend that extra hour on finding great people, not on sending more emails.
Yes, quality versus quantity.
I'll be back.
You're totally leaving me hanging.
I mean, obviously, I was thinking it could be tweed, and more tweed. That by itself is just a thought process. Own your own style when going out and talking to different people. You need to find some that fits just right. It's got a little wear to it, kind of matches, but just like you can be yourself. So I think there's a chance that the second symbol is tweed.
Yes, totally, right? Because I think at the end of the day, too, genuineness and being yourself is the most important part of all this. You are, again, bringing humility into the relationship. You're asking for help. You're asking for the opportunity for somebody to, help shepherd your relationship. You have to show up as your genuine self. So if you love tweed and you like to rock tweed, plus I think there's an element of being memorable, right? I think that's really important also.
That's a huge piece.
Yes.
What I loved about it was an element of being memorable,
Ooh.
not being memorable. You know, I'm not coming out here like running around in tweed and attacking people. I'm trying to just say, hey, this is kind of my thing. I'm comfortable in it.
Yes.
And most importantly, I'm more comfortable with it than without it. I'm not using it as a prompt to feel comfortable. It's
Right.
genuine to me. So your comment of genuine and an element, I think, is huge. And just like Sherlock Holmes's cap, that was one of the things, like tweed cap. I kept reading about tweed cap last night, and there was one place where Sherlock Holmes wasn't in the room, but the tweed cap was, and people were like, "He's here."
So dramatic. That I feel like there's people that I've kind of encountered over time where they have a certain phrase that they always say over time, or they have a certain way that they approach things. It just becomes really memorable, and you kind of look forward to that because that's something that is really genuine and unique about them and how they approach things. So I think kind of finding what it is that's your unique quality.
And I think that says something because, as a mentee, as a believer, you will be bringing this entertainment, this perspective, this charisma. Like you're really there to engage the guide, but you're not there to overpower the guide. It should really easily flow from you. And also, I think what's important about the idea of tweed is that some people aren't going to like it. And that's okay. Like if you reach out genuinely as yourself to 3 different people and all 3 say it's not a good fit, they might go, well, I got a friend that loves tweed. And I got an email that said, hey, I'm looking about starting this new business. I have these 1 or 2 questions. I'd really be curious to know about how you dealt with this challenge about this part in your business. I hope you're having a great day. I am pumped to go out to this local sanctuary and see if I can find this one bird. Like, have a great weekend. I'd be like, huh, this person's got a passion and is happy to talk about it, and also is done its research on me, cares, and has some really good questions that are actually interesting.
I'm sure I get a lot of similar conversations, super professional and organized, but it's like, what is it that's a little bit different? What's your tweed?
Another thought process in there, because then like if you can't share what you're doing for like pieces of your day or what you get most excited about, then what are you really going to be in this relationship? Because a relationship's all about sharing and caring.
Yes.
Being there for somebody else. So if you don't want to share big parts of your life, how are you going to enter in a new relationship around mentoring?
And it doesn't have to be something that quirky. It could be like you love to bake, or you love birds, or you love whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be such a surprising thing. But it's great because it also shows that you're passionate. I love that.
The third symbol, which is important here, because you've already focused, you're going to be genuine about yourself and like be able to wear your own skin during your reach out. I think the third one is you got to take a step back and just put your brain, put it into your pipe and smoke it. You need to take a deep breath, take a puff on Sherlock's pipe, and just relax for a moment before you send it out. So again, it can't be Monday morning, I need a mentor by Friday.
Yeah.
You're gonna do this research. You are going to do your searching. You're going to do all these things, and then you're going to take a day and sleep on it, and then send your intros. Because if you're not organized enough to be thinking about this mentoring relationship ahead of time, mentoring relationship is probably not going to go great. Take a moment, sit back, enjoy where you are, and make sure that your gut and intuition feel right.
That is the most important thing, is taking a pause. I try to like instill this on everybody. Like, it's not an emergency. Like, take your time, sleep on it, come back to it the next morning. I try to always, any kind of important emails I send, I'll draft it, I'll get it all ready, and I will not send it until the next morning. And then when I wake up in the morning, I have like my cup of coffee, I look at it fresh, especially if it's anything that is important. You want to make sure that you always have time to take a second look at it. Especially if you potentially are emotional about something, you definitely do not want to send it right away wait till the next morning. And then I think too, it also, for me, what happens, I find when I'm doing something like this, like reaching out to a mentor for the first time is super important. You want to get it right. Draft it, go to sleep, take a walk, go for a jog, think about it again, and I guarantee something else is going to come to mind, something else that you really wanted to add, a new perspective, throw it in there, and off it goes. So that's why it's really important, like you said, with your timelines, make sure you're not trying to do it all too fast and you're rushed, because it comes across that way. And really sit and think about it. And sometimes share it with somebody else. Maybe you have a friend, maybe you have a Watson or a Boots who can, take a look at it, or your mom or whoever, and say, how does this look to you? Your friend, somebody who's good at this kind of thing, have them take a look at it.
The pause is so important, because in the moment, everything's a good idea. It's just take a moment. If it's a rush, it's not the right time to be in a relationship. But we talk about it all this time in romantic relationships about, oh, well, it's not the right time. Well, if you're rushing for a mentoring relationship, it's just not going to be the right time. And if nobody comes back to you and they don't respond with your first couple missives you send out, that is okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You are honing this muscle. You are building these skills.
So do you have any top advice of good places to at least start looking when you're looking for maybe these 3 people that you want to reach out to?
So I think already with us starting with that Venn diagram of your overlaps, and like for me, a big overlap is where I have gone, or just institutions I've been a part of. So like my high school, easy to reach out to those people, right? My university, Tufts University, shout out. Any other jumbo, just like you, also a jumbo. How we initially connected. We would not have connected if I wasn't searching for people that I thought would be great speakers for my class, and who are already Tufts jumbos. Boom, Venn diagram, and then I layered on food, and then I layered on CEOs, and it was you. And so it, like, kind of putting on, almost like going to the eye doctor and cycling through.
Yes.
I think that is actually a decent like metaphor for us when you're at the eye doctor, which I was doing this week, and they're cycling through different lenses. Put on those different lenses. Like, think about what you connect with. Like for me, I'll come back to basketball. There's a basketball player out there, or someone that like does pickup. I remember I used to have some really interesting conversations with the individual who founded Energy Star program. And so somehow I got into Sam's office. I met him at a green building symposium or something like that. I got into his office and we were talking, and I saw a picture of a basketball player, and I was like, huh, cool. And I was like, what is that? And then he just started going off, and he was a long time just guy going to the park playing pickup. And I was like, I love going to the park playing pickup. So I did growing up. And then we just jammed about that for 20 minutes. When I was going out the door, he's like, I'll see you again soon, right? I'm like, of course you will. And again, it was just being genuine, knowing what my layers are. So if you find somebody on LinkedIn or on Twitter, or somewhere on the internet that says, hey, I'm really into birding, and that's also your passion, that is something excellent to reach out to. And now, don't hammer it home, but to show that you have, like, that might even not be the first thing you say to this individual. You might bring out a different piece, a different swatch of tweed to be memorable. But again, that are those similarities that build really strong, great relationships.
And connections, then you really are able to connect, and you feel like you can find those places where you have so much in common, and you find out what's important to each of you, and then you hone in on that, and then the relationship grows from there. Also, professional organizations, for me, I mean, honestly, that's how I met my business partner, Erin. But just joining, especially on a leadership level, everybody's looking for volunteers. Everybody needs help. Like any of these kind of organizations, I'm part of a bunch of them. So I think that's always one of my first tips, is try to find a professional organization you can join. A lot of them have student groups, and jump in, get involved. It's a great way to meet people and then meet other mentors.
Volunteering, being part of something you care about, even as, for me, like in Baltimore, every Saturday morning I'd go out and make deliveries in the old van for an organization called Centro Soul. Just making deliveries to anybody that needed food. And by volunteering there, I met a really fantastic individual, and she runs the nonprofit. And just because I kept showing up and I got to learn something, and I actually, out of that, I took on a slight mentoring relationship with 2 of the individuals in her program. I actually think that I find most people through events where I end up I'm curious about them. Even if I'm not part of it, I'm genuinely curious. And I think a big piece of this, when you're looking for a new mentoring relationship, is ask your friends, tell people that
Yeah.
are already close to you, hey, I have this problem coming up. What should I do? And I mean, you and I have both introduced people into each other's lives by us sharing,
Hmm.
with some vulnerability. Hey, I have this problem, or hey, I want to learn this, or I don't know how to do this. What do you think? And then we're like, well, I don't know anything about that. You should talk to Joe, talk to Sally. Like these are great people that can help.
And also, I think the other thing too is content. Right now, there's like, I mean, honestly, between YouTube, between Clubhouse, between Instagram, I think people are more accessible than ever. So if there's a particular topic, like let's say you want to, open a pet spa, or you want to, get more involved in some particular area of something, it's pretty, I mean, I've been even thinking about us with mentoring. I've been looking, I'm like, are there mentoring conferences? Are there like conferences where mentoring nerds like us get together? Like, should we go? Should we go see what that's like? And just, then you start to see who else is out there talking about it.
Saying get on LinkedIn, do searches on the internet, talk to your friends, show up at conferences or events, and yeah, again, you just got to get out there and be yourself.
Totally. 100%. Just like Sherlock. There you have it. This episode gave some clues on how to move forward with finding a great mentor guide. You do not have to wear tweed. Sure, velvet or silk is fine too, but being yourself is the best bet when looking for a mentoring relationship. If you want to help Julie and Jimmy in our mentoring journey, then please subscribe because we all should ask for help. Thank you to our producer, Erica Samus, and see you soon.